thank you for that kind introduction, and good morning, everyone. This year we are holding our 20th Image Quality and System Performance Conference, and I've been asked to cover those 20 years in 20 minutes or less. As they say, we live in a visual world, and that is the opening line of our quest for submissions for a few years, and I think I credit Susan Farnan with that. The first IQSP conference was held in 2004. For several years, IS&T, the organization that runs the Symposium, had held the PICS conference, and PICS was an acronym for Photography, Image Quality, and Capture Systems. In 2003, the IS&T board decided not to continue that series, but to start a corresponding conference within the Electronic Imaging Symposium, which was held in conjunction with SPIE. And I had been active in the PICS conference and was asked if I could help organize the first meeting for this conference, and so we chose a name, Image Quality and System Performance, and so it started. I contacted several people who had been active at PICS and tried to get some international representation and so forth, and it was fun putting that together. Now, the first year, Professor Miyake and René Rasmussen, who had worked at Xerox in Rochester, they served as the conference chairs. Over the past 20 years, we've benefited from many long-term participants. 20 years is a long time in any career. And for example, was looking at the listing and realized that Milene Farias, who presented at the first conference on research that she completed as a graduate student, she's been active in the conference and has gone on to serve as a co-chair and is still a member of the committee. Dirk Hertel, Susan Farnan, Luke Chewy, and Robin Jenkin also presented in 2004, and they are members of our current program committee, so we've had some long-term participation. Also in that first conference, a notable speaker was Peter Barton, well known for his modeling of the human contrast sensitivity function. Let's just cover something that comes up, maybe something totally non-controversial. What's the difference between image quality and imaging performance? I'll just throw this out. Image quality generally refers to the overall clarity, accuracy, and utility and or perceived visual appeal of images. And imaging performance refers to the ability of a device or system to produce images that meet certain specifications or standards. And broadly, we address both the results of methods along these lines as well as investigation into methods. Often image quality is a subjective measure that can vary from person to person. Imaging performance we typically evaluate using objective criteria when possible. But look what also started in 2004. Looking back, it struck me that we take so many things for granted and they seem ubiquitous, but in fact they had a start. Facebook started in 2004. Yes, there was a time before social media. Media was social or antisocial, depending on your perspective, but social media per se was really in its beginnings. Amazon Lab 126 was also started. Foveon was a company set out to look at novel sensors. The performance of that particular type of sensor was a subject of presentations at the Electronic Symposium. Apparently, cordless earphones were then first Bluetooth connected earpieces headsets were also introduced. The Mars rover effort that got a lot of press more recently. Project started in 2004 apparently. And oh yes, one other thing that might be of interest to attendees here, apparently Imatest started. Imatest is well known to those of us at this conference, and we probably will hear more from Imatest later today. Well, back to our conference. It was set up to have rotating co-chairs. Really benefit from 2 or 3 people kind of organizing the sessions. We decided perhaps having 2 co-chairs and rotating that task every 2 or 3 years. In addition, we would pursue joint sessions with other conferences that basically 3 general areas, I would say: visual image quality, modeling, evaluation, and psychophysics, and then imaging performance measurement for design and system evaluation. So that might be traditional digital camera measures, digital printing, video and streaming service evaluation, as well as imaging standards for both printing, image capture, and so forth. It's worthwhile pointing out that at the time, imaging standards to many of us were not really exciting. But I've always thought that while working for a company, I could work on patents and product development, but also could satisfy an interest in outside publication and presentation based on methods, standards. At least for me, worked as a really nice balance and has been very fruitful early on in my career, and allowed me to move into consulting. Topics. What about the topics that have come up? Camera resolution, image noise, optical flare, for example, for ISO type standards. These are then often used as part of industry guidelines. So industry specific standards often borrow from this. Efforts like motion blur estimation, expanding to quality of experience. Over the years, convolutional neural networks have been applied probably since about 2016. Well, here's a summary. I asked several people who've been involved for a summary or their impression. And so these are not my words, but so as Sophie says, well, if you want to describe this conference, we've had input from the physical sciences, engineering, signal processing, as well as the psychology and cognitive science and psychophysics, human vision modeling, and computer vision. What are the contributions of conference series? Well, imaging systems and measurements, of course, optimization for humans, and more so recently, human vision systems. We've had a large number of applications, and that's been quite interesting. In fairness, when I present at EI, I'm sometimes surprised to see how broad the applications are when they're picked up and referenced in a wide range of applications. This has resulted in contributions to several industry standards that I referred to, as well as general guidelines for evaluation, and several standards are mentioned there and still contribute. Here are some of the examples of the things that I had posted in support of this conference. So here's 2017, here is 2018, and you can sort of see some of what I've drawn on there. And for another aspect, a year or so later, I changed the focus to work on particular standards. And some examples of names on technical sessions. Image quality. In the early years, there was image quality on printing systems, capture and video, and joint sessions, perceptual image quality experimentation, system performance for security, and then, as we've said before, visual attention, saliency, and quality. When I look around at some of the photos that have used or taken at this conference, I thought I'd just have a quick look and see if I could identify for a snapshot all those who are either involved with the Image Quality and System Performance Conference or who had presented there. And so there you go. And of course, I can't help but thinking the only one that was missing, who came for a few years, was the parrot. A gentleman showed up. He claimed to be from the independent press, and for a couple of years he showed up, but he would show up with a parrot on his shoulder. Now, I just point that out as an amusing anecdote. You can ask Bernice Rogowitz, who for many years was involved with the Human Vision Conference about an incident when the parrot, who was left unattended at the back of the room, started squawking hello. It was a large room, and in her words, she wasn't sure what was going on, but she didn't want to encourage the interruption. Well, enough said about the parrot. Here are a few pictures taken over the years for this conference. So I thought I would wrap up with some thoughts there. Here's Ed Fry presenting his research work. I met Ed there, who now is with Apple. And I do remember at that time, 2020, his mum, before leaving England, she'd heard about something that was going around. It turned out to be COVID. And his mum suggested that perhaps he might want to wear a face mask. And I remember talking to him at the time and saying, oh, yes, right. Oh, well, that's what mums do. They're careful. It was only later that I said, well, I'm now wearing one most of the time, and your mum was right. And his comment was, mums are always right. Here's a picture of Jonathan Phillips, who is involved with our conference, and Nicholas Touchard. Here's one of DxO, Frederic, giving a presentation regarding, I believe, the evolution of mobile phones and the cameras there, which I believe. Here's Rob Jenkin, apparently explaining something. I believe Rob is explaining something to Don Williams and Norman Corn. Don is reacting, and Norman is thinking. Again, Rob, and Best Paper Award paper rather than Best Student paper. Well, there's only one more picture, and here's one from 2016. Gota and his wife Kisa, whom I met. I had read about her adventure through a book that Gota wrote. Perhaps I should end there, because I believe we're going to hear from Gota next after the break. So I was literally could say that her reputation preceded herself by the book that Gota wrote. Well, with thanks and another photo here. Here's the list of the co-chairs who have helped guide this conference, and with thanks for the current program co-chairs. And there you go. That photo there is it says troublemaker. Now there was one of the exhibitors had some humor stickers to go on badges, and for some reason it seemed to me I had a great fun with some Japanese graduate students who thought they were great. So I think Jonathan Phillips snapped that photo, and it says troublemaker. So here's a summary. With our 20th conference this year, we continue our journey. Doubtless the topics that we address will change. Future direction and viability of any conference is not guaranteed, and it's influenced by our participants. It's a pleasure to acknowledge the helpful discussions with program committees over the years. And as Sophie also said, it's a lovely community of multidisciplinarians. Well, thanks for your attention, and I think my time is up.